Welcome everyone to another CNC of live stream. So it's the Cloud Native Live. So my name is Henrik Rexed. I'm a CNCF ambassador, and I will be the host of your today's sessions. So if you never heard about this live stream, first of all, uh, you should be aware because there's almost one session every week, bringing new different presenters, showcasing different solutions from the cloud, utilizing cloud technologies. Anyway, so if you are new to that, yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, because at the end you will have a lot of live streams coming on. And because it's a live stream, yeah, the idea is that you can interact with us. So tell us where you come from. If you have any questions, just drop the questions utilizing LinkedIn, if you're connected from LinkedIn, of course, and if you're connected from YouTube, use YouTube to drop your questions. So in today's sessions, I would very excited because the title of the session is very exciting. So if you are into the AI, machine learning, and obviously you heard about MCP. So here we will touch base on MCP metadata. So I'm pretty interested to learn about this. So I will probably have a lot of questions while going through this live stream. So I will welcome, first of all, today's presenter. So it's a good friend of mine. So it's Sebastian. So how is Sebastian? How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. So where are you based now today?
I'm based in Valois, which is on the French Riviera, so in the southeast of France. And yeah, starting to enjoy the summer here.
So usually I'm based in south of France, but today I'm live. I'm broadcasting live from Open Source Summit 2025 in Denver.
Oh,
So
exciting.
the weather is pretty cool. In fact, by the way, so if you, for those who was wondering if Colorado was a great place to be in summer, here it's pretty hot and nice. So if you like the mountains, I would suggest to go there.
Oh, no, I've never been
Um,
there.
yeah, I mean I've been there for the winter, and here it's the first time in summer, so it's really nice to be honest. So before we start, I just need to remind you for everyone connected that this is an official live stream from CNCF and it's subject on the CNCF Code of Conduct. So please do not interact or chat or questions that could violate the Code of Conduct. So be respectful. Drop your questions to Sebastian, to me, and if there's anyone in the chat, be respectful between each others. All right, so I think I made my duty, and Sebastian, you have a lot of great topics. I will let you present, and
Okay.
if you don't mind, if I do, can I interrupt you if you have any
Oh,
questions
sure,
while you're
sure. You
presenting?
can interrupt me anytime. And yeah,
All right, cool. So I will let you share your screen,
yeah.
and I'll let you present, and I will jump in if I have any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Henrik. And thank you again for Cynthia for the invitation for this live stream. Exciting topic, integrating MCP metadata in your internal developer platform. Really long. And you might think, yeah, I've heard about MCP, but I'm not really sure what it exactly is. So don't worry. One part of this presentation is explaining a bit what MCP is and also debunking some myths around MCP, because yeah, it's really craziness around MCP since the start of the year. If we bring it back to basics, it's not that complicated. It's a protocol, a really important one, a crucial one, but there's no magic or revolutionary stuff around it. But still, once I will have explained that to you, I will explain another thing is how do you manage all those MCP server protocols that are around, and I will focus on that. Okay, and it makes perfectly sense for your platform engineering strategy, and we will cover that. Okay, so let me go on the good screen first and let me introduce myself. So I'm Sebastian Blanc. You can call me Sebi. I'm a Java champion and also a developer advocate. So that means my job is to make developers happy. But more seriously, what my job is to build relationship with developers, DevRel. Okay. Um, I'm currently a developer advocate or developer relation engineer at Port, which is an internal developer portal. Okay, bringing all aggregating all the data from different sources, bringing your Jira's, your Kubernetes, your GitHub repos all in one single place, which makes sense for your platform, and based on that, offering you self-service actions, service catalogs, etc. You will see a little bit of it, but the clearly the topic of this talk is not on Port. Beside that, I love the game Half-Life, and I love cats. I have 5 cats myself. Usually there's a cat or two with me. Not today. They're probably in the garden, looking for shadow. Yeah, and that's all about me. So let's start with the presentation. I will start with a really obvious statement: is that GenAI is infusing everywhere. So GenAI for generative AI. That's the AI we are all used to for now almost 2 years. So it started with ChatGPT, and it basically we call that generative AI. It can generate text, images. It can call code. That's a really important one. You have to provide prompts. That's also a really important thing about, when I will talk about the MCP and the metadata. But anyway, it's everywhere. It could be your code assistant in your IDE. It could be a chatbot that you are building or interacting with. It could be an agent. Okay, so, but yeah, Gen AI is everywhere. And I just want to share this tweet, really funny tweet that I saw a few weeks ago. um, I love it, the humor. I say, hey, he was using Claude 4, maybe with Cursor, and he say, wow, GenAI just refactor my whole code base, broke the monolith, clean up the spaghetti, 3,000 new lines, nothing worked. But boy, it was beautiful. And it's really funny because I started to play with Cursor and 2 weeks ago, and I give it's awesome. It really does awesome thing. But I tried it also on one of my projects I'm working on. One of the project I will present you because it's related to the topic. And I just wipe code. Hey, make this project nice. That's all what I did. And again, it created a lot of classes, a lot of integration tests, and I said, wow, that's impressive. But then I spent, I think, at least 4 or 5 hours to fix it because it was not working. But I was wipe coding. I was not really specific in my prompt, and that's really important. Okay. Anyway, that was just for the fun. Let me continue. Let's talk about generative AI. When you infuse, and I really like this term of GenAI infusing your app, rather than a Gen AI app. It's you have your app and you want to infuse it with some Gen AI. There are some stuff that you will always do over and over again. The first one is providing a prompt to your LLM. Okay. And I was probably the first one making jokes about prompt engineering. Say, oh, but yeah, after working with it, playing with it, yeah, it's a real skill. Crafting a good prompt template is crucial. Okay. Um, the, the, the effectiveness of your LLM deeply depend on the quality of the LLM, of course, but also on the quality of your prompt. So that's something you want to spend time on. That's something probably that maybe you don't want to write, but you want someone else in your organization to provide a prompt template to you. Keep that in mind. Pretty important for the rest. But basically, there are different stuff. You have different roles. You can give instructions to your LLM. We call that the system prompt. And then you have the user prompt, which is, if you have a chatbot, for instance, is what the user will type. Okay. It can be really short prompts. It can be huge prompts. Especially the system prompt can be really complex, but that's something that you will write over and over again. So you start writing your application. So imagine the square is an application, and you have different AI services, and for each AI service, you have different prompts. It could also be, depending on the LLM, you want to write a different prompt. And even crazier, I heard that last week from Patrick Debois. He told me that I think from the Bedrock model from AWS, exactly the same model. One is running in the region US East something, and the other in Europe. Exactly the same prompt, different results. Okay, so keep in mind that you might have to switch your prompts depending which LLM, which region, which cloud provider maybe. Anyway, you write your prompts, it's working, it's nice, you're done with your application, you start writing your second application, maybe you're writing some agents, and you get your second application, and again, you start writing your prompts, you're crafting your prompts, you try out things, and by the end, when you end up writing this second application, you realize something is that those 4 prompts here are exactly the same. At least maybe some portions, some segments, some templates are exactly the same. That's would be nice if we could take those prompts and put them in a central place where they will be served to you. Okay, again, keep that in mind. Let's talk about something else. We will come back on prompt, and it's also more or less part of the prompt, because the other thing that you can do with GenAI is providing tools, or sometimes we call it function calling. That's really impressive stuff. Basically, in your prompt, to your LLM, you provide your prompt, but you also say, hey, you know what? I have this list of functions in my code that if you think it's relevant, you in the response, you can ask me to call this code with those parameters. Mm. And that could be, I don't know, um, I have a sample for a meeting bot, for instance, and you have the transcript of a meeting, and you have a tool that is called assign task. You have a method, a Java method, or a JavaScript function called assign task, and you can say, hey, LLM, this is the transcript. If you find any tasks that need to be assigned to the attendees of this meeting, please, in the response, give me the list of calls of tools, function callings, so that we can assign the tasks. Okay, so this is tools. That is something that existed even before MCP. For those that knows a bit about MCP, and I will dive into MCP in a few seconds, you often hear MCP tools. And a lot of people think that tools only appeared with MCP. No, that's something that is almost there since the beginning. In OpenAI, it's there since the beginning. And most of the models now, even the open source models, support function calling. It's pretty complex to write. But if you are using libraries like LangChain for J, they will abstract that completely for you. I think I have that on my next slide. Yeah, for instance, I'm a Java developer, and I'm using LangChain for J in Quarkus. And basically, if I want to provide any method to my LLM as tools, I just annotate it with the annotation tool. I give it a good description, really important. Here I say, create a task for the SME. And then magically, when I will do a prompt and do a call to my LLM, this tool will be translated into this weird format here that you saw. Well, it's not that weird, it's pretty clear, but pretty complex, but that will be translated automatically. Okay, so that is really powerful, especially when you are building agents and that you are doing agents to agents communication. Tools is, in my opinion, one of the most impressive stuff in the GenAI space. But again, you start writing your application, you have your prompts already, and you want to provide some tools. So you write your tools, and then you write your second application, and again, you add some tools. And yeah, you already guessed it. You realize that those 4 tools are exactly the same tools. Okay, so what can you do? Maybe you can create a library. If you're using Java, you could create a jar file that contains those tools. That's doable. That's a fine approach. And every time you use an application, you can just add this dependency, this jar. But yeah, then if you have to update it, yeah, it can, yeah, maybe it's not the approach that you want. Anyway, it would be nice if there was a central place to put your tools. And again, also, and here we are speaking about platform engineering, where we want your platform team to streamline exactly what they want you to do as a developer. That might be the case for tools. Hey, you're writing a new application. Okay, you can use this set of tools, this set of prompts. Okay, and basically, and here we are start talking about MCP. So imagine that I have here a server, and I can put all my prompts, all my tools. Okay, and then there's some way, some protocol to communicate with my infused Gen AI infused application. And that part, that is exactly MCP. Okay, that's MCP. The server could be remote, could be local. I will checking the time. Yeah, I'm good in the time. But basically, that's it. It's MCP is a way to define how tools, prompts, and resources. I won't cover resources because it's part of the spec, but to be honest, I haven't played with it, so I don't feel legitimate to talk about it. But when it comes to tools and prompts, you want to have a way, a protocol where an application can discover the different set of tools, of prompts, and then retrieve a prompt or call a tool. And it is what MCP is. It's just that. Okay, there's no AI involved in MCP. That's funny. MCP is there to help GenAI Infused app, but MCP itself, the protocol itself, the implementations of the protocol doesn't have any AI involved. If we go a bit into the detail, basically what happens, your client, your application that is using AI and LLM, he establish a connection with an MCP server, okay, and that's defined in the protocol, and then they can start communicating. The transport layer, really important, can be of two types. So basically, it can be standard I/O, okay, so it's using the standard I/O, and basically it's just a bit like when I told you embedding a jar or a library. You just add a library and it will use the I/O locally to communicate. Or, and I think it's more interesting, you can make it remote and then it will use HTTP. Okay. Um, I should have updated this slide because at the time I wrote this slide, it was SSE, server-side events, but now in the new spec, it's streamable HTTP. Okay, and I see there a remark like an API call. Exactly. Okay, so it's just like an API call. You could wrap your API calls like with an MCP server. Okay, there are some great talks out there. I will let you Google that. If it makes sense, you can do it, but just don't blindly wrap your APIs with MCP. Maybe you want to fine grain it because it makes more sense for an LLM call. But yeah, in the end, it's just like an API call. It's really funny because in the end, it's more like, hey, let's extract some functionality. Let's put it in a small server, and on the other server, hey, I was thinking it's like microservices. So it's more like we are reinventing always a wheel, but we are incrementing and adding new stuff. Here, we add the fact that, well, we have new components in our developer world. We have prompts, we have tools, and that is just a way to formalize it in a protocol. But you're right, it's really pretty close to an API call. So that's the transport. And then how is it exactly used? I should have used here a white background, I see, because yeah. But anyway, it's using JSON RPC 2.0 as the wire format. So basically, it's just a standard, okay, written in JSON. And basically, you make a request. I sum them up here. Just I simplify and max. There are a bit more in the spec, but for tools is the discovery. So the client can at any time call the tools list, and that will retrieve, the MCP server will return to the client a whole list of tools that are available. Okay, this one is really important for the metadata part. For the prompt, it's the same. I can ask for the list of all the prompts, and then I can retrieve one specific prompt. I can pass a parameter. It could be give me the prompt for this LLM and in English, for instance, and it will retrieve you this prompt. It also have that's defined in the spec. You don't have to use it, but if you want, you can do it. It can also do some templating, so you can call a prompt and pass a list of parameters and that correspond to variables in your prompt template, and that will be resolved in the MCP server, and the MCP server will return you a resolved prompt. Okay, but basically, tools list, prompt list, those are really important. And of course, for the tools, invocation tools calls. But in our case, we will be interested in listing the available information. I won't do a demo because I won't have enough time, I think. Let me drink some water and I go. Okay, so that was my power intro for MCP. If you want to see the demos, check on YouTube. Type Devox UK or Devox Poland and MCP. You will find my talk. I give the tools in action at 25 minutes, where I have exactly the same slides, and then I move on to some live coding demo specifically on MCP. Here it's about MCP metadata. Okay, so if you're curious, just go. You will find it easily. Let's talk a little bit about platform engineering. Platform engineering, if you need to summarize it in 2 words, it's about empowering developers. You create an internal developer platform to empower your developers, to make your developers autonomous. And in the same time, you want to streamline exactly what they can or not can do. Don't be too restrictive, otherwise your developers will never use your platform. But yeah, you have to find the right balance. For instance, if you give them the feature to provision a new managed database, and you have a region and a version number of your Postgres, for instance, that is a good way to streamline. You want to make sure that your developers only use Postgres 14 or 15, and you only want to limit it to 3 or 4 different regions. Okay, that's a great way to streamlining what your platform teams wants. So platform engineering is more or less around that. Empowering your developers by making them self-sufficient. They can request cloud resources, they can scaffold a new project, and it will be in line with the compliance, the security compliance, everything. So now your developers are going to build also GenAI infused apps. And there's a big chance that you will start also building MCP servers internally. And I think, by the way, that's my personal opinion. Everything that you will read about MCP are more or less public available MCP servers using standard I/O. And I think that the most usage of MCP will happen internally in companies. Okay, platform teams will create their MCP servers, where they will craft sets of prompts that your different feature teams can use. The same for tools. Okay, and it makes perfect sense. That's why I think MCP and platform engineering are really the best partners. It's really your platform team that can say, hey, you want to write a new AI, start a new GenAI project. You are part of this team, of this business unit. That means that you will need to use those prompts, at least those system prompts, which are instructions that have been crafted by our specialized teams, for instance. And same for tools. You don't want your teams to use any random MCP tool that they find on the internet. You want to be able to streamline those tools. And that's where it becomes interesting, because as a developer, I need to know what are the prompts, what are the tools that I can use. And as of today, there's no really a way of doing that. What is this? Oh yeah, this. that was just another slide to explain you a bit the challenge of platform engineering. Okay. One thing is empowering developers. The other one is, in the end, you will not end up with one internal developer platform, but with several ones. Okay. And you will have SaaS projects that you will be SaaS products from vendors that you will be consuming. That is the ideal situation where you have one main base platform and you have a set of operators, of CRDs, that encapsulate your vendors, operators, your custom operators. Of course, you have a GitHub approach, and this one is routing everything. Okay. And sorry, I forgot this slide, but that was just to mention a bit, to make the platform engineering overview again in 5 minutes complete. Anyway, one so beside empowering developers, one of the most powerful thing in platform engineering is that you can create a unified platform domain model. That means that things that don't belong together in the real world, like, I don't know, a Jira instance and a Kubernetes deployment, okay? In the real world, they are completely apart. There's no connection. But as a platform user, it could make a lot of sense. Maybe on my deployment, I have an annotation or a label that matches a Jira project, and it will be nice that as a platform user, I can connect those two together. And that's the other really powerful feature of platform engineering, is creating data aggregation of stuff that don't live together in the real world, but which make really sense in your platform. And it's exactly the same when you think about it, when you will start infusing GenAI in your application. You will have a lot of things that don't belong together. It could be the LLM, it could be your vector database, it could be your prompts, your tools. And in the same time, all of those things, you still want to connect that all together because it's part of the service you are building and that you want to bring to production. You might want to connect, I don't know, a prompt, a set of prompt to a Jira project. Maybe it makes sense for your platform. So how can you do that? So the challenge is to extract the metadata of your MCP server. Today, as of today, in the specification, there's no way of doing that in a clear way. There's no, well, there is a list prompt, as I show you, there's a list tools, but you have to initiate the connection. And hopefully, in the future, there will be maybe a REST endpoint, a simple REST endpoint that you can call against an MCP server that will retrieve you the list. Now we can work around, and that's what I did, because I started to work on an MCP metadata exporter. I will show you that quickly in a few seconds. But what we need for the platform is a way to have this information available, the list of tools, and in each tool you have a lot of information. The spec is really nice about that. When you define a tool, you give a description, but for each parameter of your tool, you can also give a description. And it is really gold information for a developer when he has to decide which set of tools I'm going to use. If he gets a catalog of different tools, and he can see the description and also see the parameters, and for each parameter, the description of the parameter, that could be a great usage. Same for the prompt. A good description of the prompt will make it easy for your user to pick the right prompt, especially if your platform team defines, I don't know, in the description come with some convention, with dots or points, I don't know, but you can decide on that. Anyway, you need to bring that all together. And oh yeah, and that's, you will see some UML. You know, my daughter just finished her first year of IT, and she had an exam on UML, and she was telling me, Dad, are you really using that in the real life? I say, well, not that much anymore. But then I was writing this presentation. I say, hey, yeah, but it makes sense here. So if we represent a bit MCP as a class diagram, because it makes sense again for platform engineering. I'm telling you how to create a unified domain model. So you have a MCP server which can have one or more prompts or one or more tool specs, okay, with different methods. That's the basics. That's what the protocol offers to you. And it's pretty easy to represent that uh, as a class diagram. And from that, it's pretty easy to create a small tool that will represent an MCP server like this. But then again, as I told you, you have more than that. Maybe you want to have a server state for your MCP server. Maybe you have some that are experimental, but you still want some of your teams to play with it. Some others are stable; they can use it, and some are deprecated. You don't want your teams to use it, or at least you want to warn them that this MCP server is deprecated. That's something that doesn't exist in the protocol. And of course, it totally makes sense. It will never be part of the protocol of the MCP protocol, but still, it's really useful information. It could be a set of tags that you can add to your MCP server to help your developers when they are looking for the perfect MCP server that they want to use. If you can enrich your MCP server with tags, with label, annotation, anything like that, tags could be something. But it could be even more. It could be, hey, a connection to the LLM. This MCP server works best with this set of LLMs. Or this MCP server belongs to this team. This team is owning this MCP server. So everything about governance around projects, well, you need to represent that like this. And that is when I talk about managing metadata of the MCP server. Of course, the core is that, but then imagine all the stuff that you can connect to that. So to make that more visible, again, there's nothing in the protocol right now to extract this basic information here. What I did, and that's something that will be released probably this week. It's an open source small project that you can start this application as a Docker container. You can point it to any MCP server, and it will extract. So the first version will be for tools, but it will extract for you all the tools from this MCP server and spit it out as a JSON. Here, this one is a bit specific for my company. It spits out a format. It's JSON, but so any other application can use it. But it spits out here a format that is well formatted for my portal, and then my portal can consume that. Okay, and for now, yeah, I'm misusing the protocol. I'm acting like an MCP client, like a mock MCP client, but that's the only way to do it. And then I can call list tools, list prompts, and then I clean it up and I send it back to wherever it's needed. And you can point it to anything. Here, for instance, I get one pointing to the so that is a standard IO, the GitHub MCP server, which is pretty cool. Everything that you can do with GitHub is exposed here as MCP server, but it could be a local MCP server here, and you just provide the MCP. Anyway, you run this tool, okay, and then it will feed, in this case, my portal, but it could be your custom homemade portal. It could be your backstage. What is the end result? Let's take a look. So basically, let me go here. So this is my portal. Okay, so for those that never tried it out, you can try it out for free, no credit cards. Ask port.io and you can play around. It's a portal. You have software catalogs. Okay, so you can list your different services that come from, I don't know, GitHub, Jira. You can aggregate them, of course. And you have self-service. Okay, today we won't focus on self-service, but self-service could be, hey, I want to provision a new managed database. Okay, you click, it creates a payload, and some magic happen in the backend, and you don't have to write a ticket to your ops team or to your support team. Anyway, what I did here with this with my small project that I'm working on, I created blueprints. So blueprints is basically a domain model representation of your platform that you can implement in port. Okay, I can show you one a repo, for instance, that represents a GitHub repo. Okay, it's a blueprint, and then you can here you see all those lines. You can connect that with anything that doesn't belong in the real world with a repo, but which makes sense in your platform. So I did the same here for MCP server. So I created a blueprint for MCP server. And by the way, my exporter creates this blueprint for you automatically if you don't have them. So here I got the interesting part here is don't look at those for now, but I have a relationship with an array of tools. So an MCP server has different tools. And here I was able to add anything I want. So I could have an array recommended for the following teams. Categories, status, what I told you, experimental, stable. What is the command that I need? The stdio command. What is the endpoint if it's a HTTP remote? I got all the information. And of course, I can connect that to a tool spec blueprint that I can show you here. So one specific tool, it has a description, it has name, and it has parameters. Okay. So I have those. I run my exporter, it feeds my portal, and what do I end up with? Well, now if I go to my catalog, I can have here, if I go to MCP server, I get a list of different MCP server. Okay, I get a GitHub server here, my custom IDP platform server, my company itself, the portal itself. We have an MCP server. You can do crazy stuff with that as well. It's not it's not in the topic. I could show you the crazy stuff that you can do. And here, oh yeah, I could have deleted the one. This one I just changed the name, but it's exact. And you can see the status. But maybe from my IDP it's stable, but now a new version is coming. So I can just make it deprecated now, okay? And that will me as a platform builder, I make it now deprecated. And so the user, when he will come here, and maybe if he has a self-service, let's take this one again, he could have here a drop-down. Here is database dialect, but imagine it's MCP server. The portal knows exactly in which team you work, what type of project you are working. You could have here the list of MCP server and imagine immediately know if what the status is. Anyway, if I come back here to the catalog, so I got my server. So let's click on one of the server, the GitHub server, for instance. I got all the information I need here, and then I can see all the tools that GitHub provides. So that's the real GitHub server. If I go here to related entities, that's probably where I can see them. List tags, list issues. Okay, so me as a developer, even if I need some information about an MCP server, I can just come here on my portal. Because we have extracted all the metadata, maybe we have aggregated that with some useful information. It's just available here. If I go on fork repo, I probably got some information. Fork a GitHub repo to your account or specific. And I can see the parameter. I need a repo, an owner, and an organization. That are the parameters that I need to pass to make this tool work. Okay, even if in the end, it will be your LLM figuring out which parameters are needed there. But yeah, so let me see. Basically, that is what I wanted to show you.
I have a small question.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yes, you mentioned the metadata. So you're extracting metadata with the example, which is great. And then you have this the status, which is stable, deprecated. So here you're using the UI. I guess you can
Yeah.
interact and change it through an API call. But when you were presenting, I said, oh, I would be also interested to say, the GitHub MCP server currently is, I don't know, the latency is very high. So you bring also the notion of health in
Oh
the
yeah.
actual MCP server, because at the end, if you rely on MCP servers and then they are not responding, then then
Exactly.
you're a bit limited. I know it's not part of the metadata, because I think it should not be part of the metadata. But what's your opinion on that?
Oh yeah, we could have. Well, it could be another. Uh, we could have another exporter that is a health check that behind the scenes, and it's not related to port at all, that does some pinging to the MCP server, and that feeds then back the portal with this information. The portal should not do the health check itself. I don't think so.
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't think it's
Yeah.
the goal, but it should use a tool or a monitoring tool.
Yeah.
And again, that's the power of the portal. Well, you could bring together the health state with and relate it to the MCP server. Yeah, but that's a good
And
one.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then I was just wondering because I'm pretty new to. I mean, I'm starting to explore MCP servers. So you mentioned tooling. So then those tools will be utilized by prompts. So I just want to understand. So you saw update PR. I don't remember the actual tool that you showed us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So how would that be then connected to utilized for an implementation?
For an implementation, so imagine is that, yeah, that's cursor. I got my chat here. I don't know if I'm connect. No, I'm probably not connected, but I could say for this code here, create. I could say create me a pull request here. Create a PR for this change I just made, something like that. Okay. Um, I don't think I'm connected to the GitHub repo, so MCP server. But just with this prompt, the LLM will figure out that I want to create a pull request. Okay, so I'm not sure what he's. I'll help you create. Oh, he's doing some stuff. Okay. Oh no, he's giving me the comments. But imagine if I was connected here to my GitHub MCP server, he would figure out that for this project here, and maybe I've created already some changes. I want to create a pull request, and he will call himself the create pull request tool in the MCP server of GitHub. Of course, I need to provide some tokens and stuff like that, but that's one way of using the MCP GitHub
Yeah, but
server.
I was more thinking if there must be a relationship between prompts and toolings, I guess, no?
Oh yeah. It comes
Yeah.
in the same. It comes in the same request.
Yeah. Okay.
In your request, there's your prompt, your user prompt,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the list of tools. And
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
That was my wondering. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's perfect.
And
Yes.
when you pass the MCP, if I showed you the request, the OpenAI request or the cloud one, it will be a really long request because it basically passes all the tools from the GitHub MCP server. And of course, there's no magic. Then it can do some coming back. It can also chain calls, but yeah, every time you have to pass the whole list of tools to your in your prompt in your request. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. So I don't know if there are any questions, but
I
again,
don't
no.
see any questions on the chat yet.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions on the using LinkedIn or YouTube. By the way, yeah. So you mentioned this project that you was referring. So do you have a repo? Where would you publish this?
Yeah. That will. So I need. To be honest, I need to clean it a little bit up. I need to finish the README, but it will end up on. We have something called port experiment. Sorry, port experimental. Oh, sorry. Oh, this was no.
The previous one. That was the previous
That was the
one.
previous one. Yeah. We have a repo. It's called come on, export experimental. There we go. Yeah. Okay. I have to update my two-factor here, but I can paste you that in the private chat if you want to put it in the chat. Okay. These are the kind of projects that will end up there. So yeah. So my previous talk I did for the CNCF was about OSS scorecards. We were there as well, and I created an exporter for port as well, and it's on this repo. Yeah, but hopefully, yeah, when time allows, hopefully this week I will release it. I was planning to release it last week, but then yeah, the talk was a bit delayed, so I say, hey, let's make it match. Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
cool.
I think you were you covered it in a really efficient way. So thanks, Sebastian,
Yeah, it
for
was a
presenting
pleasure.
this. And for those who or didn't have the chance to join us live, and you're watching this afterwards, you can still reach out to Sebastian on LinkedIn, I guess, or Twitter or Blue Sky. I guess you're probably aware.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. Have
Thanks.
all.
Thanks you all. Thanks for joining this session, and have a great day. And see you soon for another Cloud Native Live.